Great.
Hello, folks. Today is Friday the 13th. Friday, May 13th, and welcome to a special commissioner in the car. I'm Dustin Zarney, Democratic Elections Commissioner for Onondaga County. And I didn't do a Zoom with Zarney this week, which I normally release on Fridays, my interview show, because we knew that we were going to get some news about redistricting over the next couple of weeks regarding the August primary for the state Senate and congressional maps. And so I wanted to reserve my time to talk about that this week. I wasn't able to get to a Wonky Wednesday article this week as well. This is basically my my week of didn't get to stuff, unfortunately. But I am going to try to get you some information about the August primary, because we finally this week, over the last few days, got some information, and we know a lot more about how we're going to operate this August primary election. And let's recap how we got. Back in early this year, the New York State Redistricting Commission failed to send second set of maps to the legislature. The legislature, led by the Democrats on the legislature, said that meant that they could draw the districts for Senate, Assembly, and Congress for New York State. They drew districts, especially on the congressional side, that were heavily Democratic favors, that would change the makeup of the congressional delegation in New York, which was already favored the Democrats, just basically based on enrollment, to really favoring Democrats. A lawsuit was filed in Steuben County, New York, on the state Senate and congressional maps. The judge in Steuben County back in April found that the congressional maps were a gerrymander and the state Senate maps were wrong because of the process. And even though that the petitioners didn't file on the assembly lines, those were part of the same process and thus also thrown out. There was then an appeal to the to the appellate court, which found that the assembly maps and the Senate maps were not gerrymandered, so thus could be kept. However, the congressional maps were gerrymandered, and so yes, those are out. And then there was just recently, a couple weeks ago, the final stop on the appeal network for the Court of Appeals, and that was, they found that the state Senate maps were out because of process, but not because of gerrymandering. The congressional maps were out because of gerrymandering, and that though the assembly maps were part of the same process, because the petitioners did not file to ask for the assembly maps to be thrown out, that those were kept in place. Then the DCCC took it to federal court, saying that you couldn't move the congressional primary from August to June, as the appellate court had said that you would do, or from June to August, because that violated a federal order from 2012. Well, the Southern District of New York said, well, let's go ask the judge who put in that first order if this would be acceptable. And then the Judge Sharp in the Northern District of New York ruled that yes, moving the primary from June to August was in compliance with the 2012 order. So thus, the new August 23rd primary was set in stone. There is a special master drawing the maps. There was another lawsuit to try to get the assembly maps thrown out because it wasn't part of the original lawsuit. But basically, the judge in Steuben County this week ruled that on Tuesday that it was too late to bring that lawsuit. We're too far along the road, and thus the assembly lines stay. And so what has happened? On June 28th, we will have the statewide primaries for governor, lieutenant governor, any assembly primaries, though we do have none of those in Onondaga, and any local primaries, which the only one we have in Onondaga is the Republican Town Committee of Pompey is having primaries on several of their districts. That's what's happening in June. But what this podcast and vodcast, whatever you call it, is focusing on is the August primaries. And that is for Congress and State Senate. Because in addition to all of that stuff I just said, this week, the Judge McAllister in Steuben County released the new political calendar for getting on the ballot for these races. And as I predicted, it is weird. It is very weird because we are so far along in the process. They do have an alternative ballot access method. And what do I mean by that? Well, normally when you have a race in New York, you have to walk petitions within the political subdivision, get so many signatures to get on the ballot in a particular party to be part of the primary or general election. Well, what Judge McAllister ruled this week with guidance from the State Board of Elections on both parties is that if you have submitted petitions during that June primary, remember, at the time the maps were ruled unconstitutional in the very first instance, people all across the state had filed petitions to run for Congress on the old lines that the legislature drew up in January. What Judge McAllister ruled this week is that if you filed petitions, you can those petitions are good for whatever district that you want to be in, and all you have to do is file a piece of paper. I believe it's by June 1st. I think maybe it's May 31st. It's May 31st. That will say, I like these. I want these petitions to count still for the August primary, and you can pick whatever congressional race you're in. With the theory is that the lines may change and you may be in a different area, but along with congressional lines, there is no residency requirement. You just have to be a resident on the day you take office. So they, in theory, could use those petitions to run anywhere in the state. And then on the state Senate line, the residency requirements are a little lax because it's a redistricting year. You have to have 5 years of residency here in New York, and then you can run for any state senate in New York State. So those are for state senate or congressional lines. If you filed petitions, you basically get a pass for petitioning this time around, and all you have to do is file a certificate to say which congressional or state senate district you want to run in. The second thing is that there will be a petition period for designating petitions. That's party petitions. That will start May 21st, and it will go until the middle of June. Those petitions are, instead of 5%, you have to get 4.25% of the registered people in the party, and they reduce the signature count for the maximum from 1,500 down to about 1,060 for Congress, and 1,000 to about 830 for state Senate. And so if there's a new candidate that, because of the new lines, wants to go out and actually walk petitions, they can do so. They have this period to do so as well. And then finally, independent petitions start May 21st as well. These are petitions for another party, so like not Democrat, Republican, working families, or conservative. So if they're not one of those four recognized, they can walk in independent nominating petitions, choose their party name, and run. That runs from May 21st to July 5th. It's the full signature requirement for those offices. Check back to get what those signature requirements are, because we still don't know the maps. So that is the big news that dropped this week. And it is big news, because for the first time ever, we have this kind of weird, your petitions that you walked before count this time around. It's kind of the first time we've seen an alternative method of balloting in New York and ballot access in New York. So that's kind of neat. And we have this condensed calendar as well, and petitions for independent nominations and designations are happening at the same time. This is a very weird period that we are about to embark on. What's weirder still is that we don't know the maps. We still don't know the maps. We won't know those until next week. On Monday, May 16th, the special master will release his draft maps. These are the maps that, his first pass at drawing these maps. Objections will be, listened to for the next 2 days to the maps till May 8th. People have till May 18th to file objections to the maps. He then will alter them and issue final maps on May 20th. So next week, we will get the maps. And then on May 21st, the day after the final maps are in, that's when petitioning will start for these maps. And again, a lot of worry in my mind is off the table because previous candidates are going to be on the ballot. They don't have to walk again, which means there's going to be a lot less candidates out there walking, a lot less burden for boards of elections to provide lists because we have to redistrict as well while we're dealing with the June election. So this is a lot of burden has been taken out, not all of it, but some burden has been taken off of our backs here. So but I wanted to do this special commissioner in the car to kind of give you the lay of the land, let you know what's going on. And, and of course, Monday's commissioner in the car will be dealing with the release of the draft maps. We'll finally know what Onondaga County is going to look like, what congressional district we're in. Though it'll be only a draft map, there's likelihood that we're not going to see major changes after that draft map by Friday. But we'll at least have something to talk about. And, of course, the state Senate districts as well. So we had 2 state Senate districts before the redistricting by the legislature. We ended up having 3 after. What will happen after that is anybody's guess. We can go back down to 2. We can go down to 1. There's a lot of speculation out there about what can happen on that, or have one large Senate district inside all of Onondaga County and then a piece of Onondaga County put to somewhere else. There's all kinds of scenarios that can happen. So we're going to have to see what the special master draws. And then we will have to live with it because of the redistricting that has been done. By the way, next week there will be another release of draft maps. The Syracuse Redistricting Commission will be releasing draft maps next week as well. And my next week's guest on Friday, on May 20th, will be a couple of members of the Syracuse Redistricting Commission. They'll be releasing the maps that they have drawn, their draft maps, and going into their 5 or 6 week drafting process, to get their final maps. So we're going to get some answers on that. So redistricting has taken over what I've been talking about for the last 4 or 5 months. And that's what happens every 10 years here in New York and throughout the country. And we still have a lot of talk about what's going to be done with the county maps as well, because there's still a process going on there where they may be going to court on that. So don't lose your eye off the ball there. So redistricting is going to be a lot about what I talk about, especially on commissioners on a car. But next week, on next Wednesday, I still hope to release a Wonky Wednesday on New York registrations. I've been getting some data together about registrations in New York State going back to 1996. I think it's a neat little article I'm writing. Just haven't had time to put the finishing polish on it because of all the work at the Board of Elections. informational mail check cards have gone out from the Board of Elections. You should be receiving those in the mail today or tomorrow. And also, and check that out because it has the right dates on there. It has the right polling place. We may have to be sending out another informational mail card after the lines change next week, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So that's what's going on, and we'll see what's going on later on in next week. So enjoy your weekend. Go Celtics! Last day for maybe the last game tonight. Broke my heart a couple days ago, but we'll see where we go. And a big shout out to my good friend David Harding, who's always here on the podcast. It's his 40th birthday today. I missed his cake, unfortunately, because I left to go to a meeting at the Board of Elections, but he's been a wonderful asset at the Board of Elections. Always a person here sharing this podcast and asking lots of questions. And he still asks lots of questions at work, but that's why we love him. So happy birthday, Dave. And that's it. Thank you very much. Enjoy your weekend. Bye-bye.